I normally don't tell this story to anyone. People either think I'm joking or say I'm overreacting. So I was a night shift delivery driver, usually from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. One Friday night around 12:14 a.m. an order came in. The address was on the outskirts of the city. The area was called Old Creek Road. My manager looked at the screen and said,
Bro, that road is pretty isolated. You sure?
I laughed and said, "It's the last delivery. I'll do it." The map took me off the highway and onto a narrow road. The further I drove, the fewer street lights there were. Then there was a point where it was just forest on the both sides. My signal got weak. The GPS blinked destination on left, but the left side was just woods. I slowed the car down, and a little ahead I saw a dirt path leading off the road. I should have turned back right there, but for some reason I drove down that path. A little further in, I saw an old wooden house. Lights were off, except for a faint yellow glow in one upstairs window. I parked the car, turned off the engine. Complete silence. No insects, no wind, nothing. I walked up to the porch. The wood cracked beneath me. I knocked on the door. 3 seconds of silence. Then footsteps, slow, heavy. The door opened. An old woman was standing there, wearing a white nightgown, messy hair, pale face. But her eyes, they weren't black, just a strange dull gray. She looked straight at me and said,
You're late.
I awkwardly replied, "Ma'am, the order was placed only 20 minutes ago." She just stared at me for a few seconds, then slowly said,
I've been waiting for 30 years.
I thought she was joking. I gave a nervous laugh. Total is $20. She reached her hand out. Her fingers were extremely cold when they accidentally touched mine. She handed me cash. The bills were old, almost brittle. As I turned to leave, she said,
Won't you come inside?
"Company policy, ma'am." She tilted her head slightly at an unnatural angle.
Be careful on the road. It doesn't like you.
I felt a strange twist in my stomach. I got back into my car, locked the door, checked the rearview mirror. She was standing on the porch, but for a second she looked taller, like her shadow was stretching. I drove off immediately. I got back onto the main road from the dirt path, but 2 minutes later I realized the GPS was still saying,
Continue on Old Creek Road for 5 miles.
I should have already been back on the highway. The road looked the same. The forest looked the same. I drove for 10 minutes, but no main road appeared, no signal. Then I saw someone standing in the middle of the road. My headlights illuminated her. The same old woman, same nightgown, same tilted head. Impossible. I slammed the brakes. The car guided. When the headlights stabilized, the road was empty. I was hyperventilating. Then suddenly my engine shut off. Dashboard lights flickered. The radio turned on by itself. Static through the static. I heard a faint voice. I kept turning the ignition over and over. Finally, the engine started. This time, when I drove, 30 seconds later, I was back on the highway, like nothing had happened. The next day, I asked my manager to check the address on Old Creek Road. He said,
There was no registered house there, just abandoned land.
police records showed no active residence either. But when I took out the cash she had given me, the bills were very old, 1960s series and slightly damp. To this day, I refuse deliveries to Old Creek Road. This happened during my last week as a delivery driver. It was 11:50 p.m. An urgent order came in. The instruction said, "Please come fast, emergency." The address was a normal-looking suburban house. I arrived. The lights inside were on, but as soon as I stepped onto the porch, I heard a loud crash inside, like glass breaking. Then a woman screamed.
Help me.
My heart jumped into my throat. I froze. Then I heard a deep male voice inside.
Give me the phone.
I immediately pulled out my phone to dial 911, but at that exact moment, the door suddenly opened. A middle-aged man stood there, calm expression.
Delivery?
I was confused. "Sir, I heard a scream inside." He left.
爸，来这 TV 是 on，可爱不小。
I clearly remember hearing a real scream. I hesitated. "Is ma'am okay?" He looked irritated.
You had to deliver pizza. I'll investigate.
I handed him the pizza. Payment was made by card. As I turned to leave, I saw a woman standing at the end of the hallway, completely still, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, like she couldn't speak. For 1 second, I locked eyes with her. Then the man stepped between us. The door closed. I got into my car, but something felt off. I dialed 911 and gave them the address. Police arrived in 8 minutes. I stayed at a distance to watch. They knocked. The same man opened the door. Officers went inside. Few minutes later, one officer came out, looking confused. He walked over to me.
There's only one man living there. No woman.
My blood ran cold. "I saw her," the officer just said.
The previous owner of the house, Haberman, was murdered there 2 years ago.
I asked about the killer. He said,
Case unsolved.
after that night, I quit the job. Sometimes I wonder, was she asking for help or did I witness something else? And the most disturbing part, the next day, the address no longer existed in our ordering system, like it was never there. I'm sharing this because to this day I don't know if what I saw was real. I was 21, working night delivery for a pizza chain. This happened in December. Cold weather, nights got dark early. It was 12 a.m. We had 40 minutes before closing when our last order popped up. Address: Maple Residency, apartment 417. My manager said 4th floor. The elevator works on time. I jogged. Last order and I'm going home. Simple order: large cheese pizza, cash payment. When I arrived, something already felt off. The parking lot was almost empty. Just an old silver car parked there with condensation on the windows, but the engine was off. I went inside. Lobby lights were dim. Reception desk empty. I pressed the elevator button. It flickered, then turned on, and there was a camera inside the elevator, but the red light wasn't blinking. When it opened on the 4th floor, the hallway was completely silent. Old stained carpet, a faint emergency light glowing at the end. Apartment 417 was in the corner. I knocked. No answer. Knocked again. From inside, I heard a faint sound like something slowly dragging across the floor. Pizza delivery. I called out. 5 seconds of silence. Then a woman's voice, very soft. "The door is open. Come inside." My first instinct was to refuse against company policy. "Man, it's cash payment. Please come on the door." Silence. Then the same voice, closer this time. "Please come inside. I can't walk." I felt a little guilty. I tried the handle. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open slightly and it opened fully. Inside was completely dark. Only the faint blue flicker of a TV in the living room. "Man," I said quietly. The TV was playing steady. I stepped inside. There was strange smell, dark walls, and something else. Something old. "Pizza," I said again. Then I heard something from the hallway to my left. Slow footsteps dragging. My heart started beating fast. At the end of the hallway, the bedroom door was half open, pitch black inside. Then the same woman's voice, this time directly behind me. "You are here." I froze. I was standing in the living room. The hallway was in front of me. How was this voice behind me? I slowly turned. The living room was empty, TV static. Then I saw something move in the darkness of the hallway. A figure, tall, extremely thin, head slightly tilted. I couldn't clearly see the face, but the eyes, they reflected the light. I stepped back. Ma'am, my voice was shaking. The figure stepped forward. Its movements weren't normal, like the joints were stiff. Then it repeated the same line. You are here. This time the voice sounded distorted, like two people speaking at once. The pizza box nearly slipped from my hand. I ran towards the door. As I crossed the hallway, I felt something brush against my ankle, like someone lightly grabbed it. I slipped but somehow kept my balance. I reached the door, turned the handle. It was locked. I swear I hadn't locked it. I shook the handle in panic. Behind me, slow dragging footsteps. Closer. I was almost crying. Then suddenly the door clicked and opened on its own. I ran without looking back. Didn't wait for the elevator. I ran down 4 flights of stairs. When I reached the parking lot, the silver car I saw earlier now had its interior light on, and someone was sitting in the driver's seat. I tilted just like the figure. I got in my car and drove straight back to the shop. My manager asked what happened. I just said the order was cancelled. The next day, I asked him to check the address. The system still showed apartment 417, but when building management was connected, apartment 417 had been vacant for 8 months. The previous tenant was an elder woman, reportedly found dead inside the apartment. TV on, door locked from the inside, no foul play found. The most disturbing part, the next day when I checked my delivery bag, under the pizza box in the grease there were finger marks, long fingerprints, and they weren't mine.